class in Chapter 2, which is about auditing standards. In this chapter, what are we gonna learn about that? We will explain the role of the professional organization in Turkey and the world. We will identify the International Code of the Ethics for Professional Accountants. We will identify the general accepted We will identify the general accepted auditing standards, identify the international standards on quality control. These are main standards and principles that regulated audit environments and auditor environments. These are the cornerstone for the audit environment. Quality assurance guides for auditors, what are they? Because if you serve as an independent auditor, you have to do quality audit works, which means we have to create a quality assurance for the independent audit. How we are going to create quality assurance for our audit works? There are four main principles that we will deal with it. First of all, general accepted audit standards we must obey when we do our audit process. And we have to also apply the international audit standards. As an auditor, we have to obey the code of the ethics. And the last one is, as audit firms, we have to apply the quality control standards. In the audit, there are three important parts. One is audit firm, another is auditor, and the third one is audit works. For these three issues, we have to apply some principles, some standards, and these principles and standards brings quality to our audit works. Therefore, these are requirements. We must apply them. We must obey them. Professional organization in the world and the Turkey. What are these? Who is the regulator body for these standards and principles? First of all, the main body for the accounting and audit environment, International Federation of Accounting, which we call them IFAC. IFAC is a global organization for the accountancy profession, comprising more than 175 members and associate organizations in 130 countries and jurisdictions, representing nearly 3 million professional accountants. IFAC founded in 1977, and Turkey is also one of the member countries of the IFAC. For the IFAC strategy, what is the IFAC strategy objectives? First of all, contributing to and what is the IFAC strategic objectives? First, contributing to and promoting the development, adoption, and implementation of high-quality international standards. Second, specifically for audit and assurance, ethics, education, and international public sector accounting standards. Third, preparing a future-ready profession by equipping professional accountants and professional accountancy organization. And the fourth, speaking out as the voice for the global profession in a trusted and influential way. So there are four main strategic objectives for the IFAC. International Standard Setting Board, which the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, IAASB, regulated IAS, International Standards on Audit, and it's regulated ISER, International Standards on Review Engagement, and regulated ISAE, IAE, International Standards on Assurance Engagement, and ISR, International Standards on Related Services. So, International Auditing and Assurance Standards Boards are publishing these four main standards, and they are dealing with these four main standards, which is really important for the audit environment. IAESB, which is International Accounting Education Standards, is also regulated for the accountants and auditors. They need to educate themselves during the work time, during the service time. It's a vocational training kind of. So these boards are publishing educational standards for the international accounting environment. So also IASBA publish International Ethics Standards Board for accountants. Of course, every profession must have ethic principles. Ethic is the very important issue for the professions. Therefore, accounting is a profession, and all the accountants must have ethical principles and they must obey them. They will serve to the clients under the ethical principles. So, IFEC has a special board, Ethics Standards Board. These boards work on it, ethical principles for the accountants. After that, there are another board under the IFEC, which is Ipsas Board, the International Public Sector Accounting Standards, which these boards are publishing accounting standards for the public sectors, which is the government. So they have like four main boards under the IFEC. So the IFEC are really setting the standards for accounting environment, for audit environment, for public sector environment. So this is a really important job they are doing in the worldwide. International Standard Setting Board has four main functions. The first function of it, setting accounting standards. Second function, setting auditing standards. Third function, authorizing and registering auditors and audit firms. And the fourth one is overseeing, inspecting, and applying legal enforcement for auditors and the audit firms. The list of the international standards, what are these? Also, these standards are regulated independent audit environment. Therefore, the first international standards on the list is the ethics. These ethics, the name of the standards, Code of the Ethics for Independent Auditors. Another standard sets quality control, QCS1. This standard's name is the Quality Control for Firm and Independent Auditors and perform audits and the review of financial statements and other assurance and related services engagement. And then historical financial information and the general principles and the responsibilities. We call it in IAS, ISA. Audit standards in the second category. Under the audit standards, historical financial information and the general principles and responsibilities, first group's main name, which is 200 between the 299. These are the number of the international audit standards. So in the table, you can see TSA. TSA, Turkish Standards on Audit. But on the other side, for the IFEC side, is the ISA, International Standards on Audit. But in Turkey, of course, as I mentioned it before, we are the member country of the IFEC. So every member country take these standards and they publish under their national name. So we call them as a Turkish Standards on Audit. So TSA 200, overall objectives of the independent auditor and the conduct of an audit in accordance with Turkish Standards on Auditing. This is the first main standards in audit. The second one is 210, agreeing the terms of the audit engagement. And the third one is 220, quality control for an audit of financial statements. And the next one is 230, audit documentation. 240, the auditor's responsibilities relating to fraud in an audit of financial statements. Another one is 250, consideration of law and regulations in an audit of financial statements. 260, communication with those charged with governance. And 265, communicating deficiencies in internal to those charged with governance and management. These groups, between every groups, every audit standards described with a number, with 3-digit numbers. So there is some groups. The first group of the audit standards, general principles and responsibilities for the auditing, for the auditors. So the number of these groups, 200, between the 200 and the 299. There is 8 main standards that published already for the auditors. Another group, the second group for the financial statements audit, between the 300 to 399. There are only 6 main standards that we can deal. These groups names risk assessment and response to assessed risk. The first one is standards 300, planning and audit of financial statements. And the second one is 315, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatements through the understanding the entity and its environment. And the 320, materiality in planning and performing an audit. 330, the auditor's response to assess risk. 402, audit consideration relating to an entity using a service organization. 450, evaluation of misstatements identified during the audit. And the third group of the audit standards, which is audit evidences. Audit evidences groups between the 500 through to 599. There is an 11 standards published under these groups. The first standards, which is 500, audit evidence. 501, audit evidence specific consideration for selected items. 505, external confirmation. 510, initial audit engagements, which is opening balances. 520, analytical procedures. 530, audit sampling. 540, auditing accounting estimates, including fair value accounting estimates and related disclosure. 550, related parties. 560, subsequent events. 570, going concern. 580, written representations. After that, there is another group which is under the audit standards using the work of the others, which is only 3 standards exist in these groups, 600 through to 699. 600, special consideration audit of group financial statements, including the work of component auditors. 610, using the work of internal auditors. 620, using the work of an auditor's expert. Next group, which is about audit conclusion and reporting. There is a 7 standards that designing in these groups. First of all, 700, forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. 701, communicating key audit matters in the independent auditors' reports. 705, modification to the opinion in the independent auditors' report. 706, emphasis of matter paragraphs and other matter paragraphs in the independent auditors' reports. 710, comparative information corresponding figures and the comparative financial statements. 720, the auditor's responsibilities relating the other information in documents containing audited financial statements. These groups helps the auditors to write the audit reports. So this is a very important group also. Another group is specialized area, which is only 3 standards that we can see, 800 through to 899. The standard of 800 about special consideration, audit of financial statements prepared in accordance with special purpose framework. 805, special considerations, audits of single financial statements and specific elements, accounts or items of a financial statements. 810, engagements to report on summary financial statements.